Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Theory Forge, episode 20, the second best episode ever. I didn't name that, but anyway, we have awesome guests on today, and running the show today, I'm going to be passing it over to Gio, I believe.
Sure, I'll take it on my shoulders to repeat a question that was asked by Velix, I believe, and I'm going to kind of go through this question really quick, and then we're going to get some opinions and ideas from everybody else here on the show. So, well, first of all, why don't we actually introduce our guest? Of course. So today we have with us. I want to make sure I'm saying this. I'm actually not even going to say it. I'm going to let you say it. There you go. Neuro's going to say it, and then why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about who you are, where you belong in Landmark, and what brings you onto our show here.
Sure. Yeah. Like Neuro said, I am Zek Saidu. I belong most in Landmark. I feel as though I am a builder. I'm going to say I'm a novice one, though I really enjoy been playing with linking and triggering lately. That's been a lot of fun. I'm on Theory Forge because we had a great time over at Live Feature Rant and said, hey, you want to come over? And I was like, sure, yeah, I've got Fridays open. So I'm here because I've been here, watched Theory Forge a lot, and it's great to be a part of the discussion now.
Of course, it's great to have you too. So thank you for being on the show with us today. Wow. And of course, we have the rest of our crew. Today's cast is going to be Noodlecat, myself, Gio. We have Diggs and Neuro, legendary Neurotoxin, or Gorilla Man, as I like to call him. This crazy gorilla head. So as I mentioned before, we have a question I believe it's posted by Velix. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but it's posed towards the workshops. And it is, do you think Rosie and her EQN team are intimidated by the skill and craftsmanship of our top builders? And do you think the in-game assets, i.e. buildings, locations, will be better or as good as our master crafters, or will they suffer due to time constraints? I guess, let's start with that then. So the first part of the question was, do you think that like the EQN build or dev team for building especially is going to be intimidated by our top builders? So let's start with our guest. What do you think, Zek?
I'm going to say no. I believe perhaps impressed, but not intimidated. I mean, I've watched every workshop show, and from what I've seen, I would say that Rosie takes a great deal of care in offering helpful and respectful critiques, but I think it's a mistake to presume her kindness as anything other than just a very high degree of professionalism. If anything, I felt more encouraged to try harder and to learn and take notes, because I know that if I build anything that gets critiqued on the show, if or were to ever happen, I know that worst case scenario, where my work is, I'll either be redirected or kind of told to save it for later.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very, as you've mentioned, or as we've talked about, a very positive and respectful way of looking at it. It's really, of course, they are definitely professionals over at SOE and do a great job of involving the community while still maintaining that level. They may refrain from saying things like GTFO or punching their screen, which sometimes I really want to do when I interact with just communities all over, from Landmark to League of Legends to everything, But with that being said, I think I'm going to just go ahead and say what I think, and then we'll get some discussion going. It's the biggest things that I see, subjectives aside, like anything that could be opinion aside. I think I'm pretty sure that, and actually I guess this is kind of a guess, but I'm guessing that people who play Landmark probably play more and build more than the people who work at Landmark, at SOE. I know when I was logged into Landmark, there are people who would be on Landmark for over 16 hours a day, building, just at it every day, doing their thing, learning. These are people who, were discovering, they're the pioneers of voxels. I mean, everything from voxelmancers to the master builders. And so, like, my first question, or the first reason why I think this question would even be, a valid thing to ask would be, well, there is the time thing. Like, when you go to a 9 to 5 job, you just kind of go to your job, you do your thing, and still you're passionate about it. You go home and you think about it, but you usually have a life outside of that. Us hardcore gamers, people who sit there are going to be in this game all day. It's very possible that they might be spending far more time in the game, crafting and building and learning these tools, as opposed to the devs who might just be looking at it like as a job.
Well, the devs are going to be doing more than just one build. They aren't going to be spending 16 hours building one thing every day. They've got more stuff that they have to work on. So it's not even just a matter of not spending 8 to 12 hours a day with the building tools, but they're going to be building different stuff, as opposed to individuals who can spend 16 hours just building their one vision and getting into the detail of that one vision. I mean, that's one of the big things there. I want to see if I can find that link for what is Landmark, because we should look at what they thought building was going to be before voxelmancy was discovered.
Yeah,
it's hysterical.
I'm pretty sure when we went to
trailers, those original trailers were kind of funny now that you look at them.
Yeah.
Right. It's like you can put a chair in your house.
Here's actually something that I was wondering is how much they planned for things to look a little bit rough and, kind of cool, but not quite there until we actually got the ability to turn our voxels into scalable mesh forms that have the texture rescale with them, to then use those to make our beautiful builds instead of just the raw voxels in the form that we're handling them now. I think that might have been their original goal, but as we've proven how powerful the tools are right now to make something that looks amazing with what we have without any of the mesh and any of the scaling features, I think they're really happy, and it might have actually accelerated some of the process of getting from point A to point B to see how much can be done technically with just in-game voxel manipulation without having to do anything even more advanced.
Should be interesting to see, at least. I mean, as a team, I don't know how many artists they have or interns or their whole, group of people. I don't think like Rosie herself will be spending 40 hours on one build, but I mean, you can already see what they're doing with the stuff that we've done for the workshops, where they're taking bits and pieces or a whole build and putting them together, which would significantly cut down on the time and allow them to create more stuff for us, and also things that they like that can fit in with that stuff, than having to work on, we have to cover all of this ground wood stuff. Because I think we'll actually get higher quality things from both sides if they do it the way they're planning on doing it right now. So everyone can kind of hone in on what they want to do and what quality level they want to reach. It's one of the reasons I do like the workshop, even though I haven't really been inspired to do much with it currently, since I don't like desert stuff.
Yeah. Well, okay, so in my utopia, what I see is a place where people come together and they work together regardless of their status in civilization to improve on each other's ideas and to help build something great together. That's my that's where I live in my head. Now, I believe that SOE, of course, is a group of really positive players, and players in the sense of what they're doing. They're playing this game with the people who are testing their game right now. They're kind of giving and taking. They, obviously a lot of times people are giving really negative reviews, and they do their best to just try to sift through that and pull the good things out and whatnot. But as I said, with what I hope is that not necessarily that they're going to be intimidated, but they're going to exist in my utopia. They're going to look at everything and they're going to say, okay, here are some of the great builders. Let's pull some of the techniques that they're using. Let's try to make it better. And maybe even, I think it would be great if they tried to contact some of these great builders, get them on board with really interacting very heavily with EverQuest Next and what that's going to be, the final product of what that's going to be. They've said it themselves. The greatest advantage to having this huge beta is that they have so many QA people like testing the game. And why not take it to the next level? Why not have it so that the people who really excel in that QA stage are going to be able to do more than just test the game, going to be able to interact and teach the people at SOE, vice versa. People from SOE will learn things and teach the players and work together to build EverQuest Next, which is what I believe was the original plan anyway. So that's a little bit of a rant about what I want to see there.
I'm going to kind of take it a different direction for just a second, and just a little quick aside. The idea that, when Notch and crew set out to make Minecraft, it wasn't the idea that we're going to make this sandbox and then we're going to have an MMO built on top of it. It was, let's make a sandbox and let people screw around and let's see what they make. And, what comes out of it then, as it gets more awesome, or it gets to the point where they need more features to do more with it, that's when they would kind of come back in and look at more development, or looking at ways to open up modding in different ways to make it more possible for people to do cool stuff with it. So that's completely meant to be just a sandbox. Like it's so highly moddable, and that's really the intent of it. But at the end of the day, there was no end goal or end game for like what that was supposed to become, what people are supposed to make with it. So it's kind of a weird thing with Landmark, because on one hand we aren't necessarily supposed to make anything or do anything. We haven't nothing's really being asked of us. On the other hand, there is some amount of that emphasis on building towards EverQuest Next, as well as emphasis on building towards things for the competitions, and really things that I don't want to use the phrase flavor of the month, but things that are starting to emerge as a more not universal style, but a style that people are more recognizing as something to get after and do, like the sci-fi stuff. People have been doing a lot of sci-fi. We talked about this on Wednesday, actually, so I'm not gonna get into too much detail about that. But I guess taking it from the other side of things, instead of looking at it as we made a sandbox to build an MMO, looking at it as we made a sandbox to let other people make their stuff, and an MMO that we're also making is kind of sort of associated with it. How does that kind of change the perspective of Landmark, and how does it change the perspective of how we would actually be, interfacing with it in terms of, what we're supposed to do, I guess?
Well, this is, when you say something like that, it drives that question that I've always had. Is Landmark a game, or is it like a tool? And because I think it'd be great. Like, it's almost like you're looking at working with Adobe Photoshop or like After Effects. It's you learn something, and then you can use that tool to even to create things, and create things that potentially you can get paid for. It's a skill that you learn and you grow. But if it's a game, then it's a game, and I feel like you have a different way to approach that. That software, like I don't look at Adobe and say like, oh, I'm going to try to paint the most things red, and I'm going to get like, I'm going to have self achievements. Like, I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like that, I get on Adobe Photoshop and I'm like, I'm going to create something, and I'm going to try to, either use it for myself to sell it or whatever. But I want to have a defined purpose in Landmark, and I feel like that'd be a good place to start for us to know where we're headed.
Achievement. You drew a straight line.
Yes.
Yeah, but Landmark isn't supposed to be a tool like Photoshop. It's a game. But one of the things that they did say is that they will be allowing people who build well to build bits of Kinos. And so I'm hoping that even though Kinos is supposed to have a fixed layout that we can't change, we'll be able to see, on different servers, different people can build a building here, a church there, or something there. And I think we will get some direction for that. I mean, that's what the competitions are all about, is directing, styles of building. And the nice thing about that, I think, as you've been saying too, is that there has been some back and forth. What the builders build has been changing the style guides, and that's why I think the devs aren't going to be intimidated, because they're just incorporating what the builders do into the style guides, and they're going to build on top of that. So when we finally do get to EQ Next, we'll have some player design and some dev design, and that's what they've always been hoping for.
Oh, I just thought about something when you're talking about that. The idea that maybe part of how we will actually be involved with building in EverQuest Next is when a rallying call destroys part of Kinos or another city, that we actually physically get to go in and rebuild sections of it, instead of it being something that's just replace what was there or let some, automated, upgraded version replace it or whatever, the different stages of fixing it up, but that it's actually something that we're physically redesigning so we can design it better, make it more beautiful, make it more reinforced, whatever the purpose is, replace that area with markets where there was nothing before, whatever it would be. I really hope that's one of the features, because that would further allow variation from server to server, that every city would be different because it got battered through war in different areas and got built up in different ways.
On paper, that sounds fantastic. Like that, like the idea of the players getting in, to an MMO that's about immersion and social and story and social aspects, right? Getting into that form and being able to actually create things for it. But that sounds great on paper. How is that going to actually
choose the
work?
people to do that.
Exactly. Like what like I don't really want to. I don't want to. First of all, I don't want to feel like I'm in Landmark when I'm playing EverQuest Next ever. Because when I'm in Landmark, I don't feel any immersion. In fact, I'm usually I'm just I used to be anyway, like jumping around, throwing my grappling hook everywhere, doing spins and shit. Like that's what I did in Landmark. I don't want, when I'm in EverQuest Next, I want to have I want to be a warrior, I want to be a mage. That's how mages talk. Yeah. But I want to have my character, and I want to feel involved in what I'm doing, and I feel like in Landmark there isn't that same level of commitment and connection to the game personally. So how do you what I want to know, what are your ideas would be for all of you guys? How could you possibly integrate such a technical and depth requiring task in a game that's based around sort of like that immersion and commitment to character?
Story bricks. So the people that are really the heroes of the encounter, the people that have really been, protecting the city, they're the, the people that are recognized as, oh yeah, if you go to Kinos, you better watch out for so-and-so, otherwise, you cross them and you're basically going to get kicked out and, run out of town or whatever. Those are the folks that would probably not necessarily be the ones that actually do the hands-on work, but are part of the process of voting on what designs, or maybe who the designers are that do get to rebuild it, and what the specifications are for what needs to be rebuilt. That's just one way to.
Is it like an architect? Sorry, go ahead,
I think all of us are going to be invested. The problem with Landmark is it's a sandbox. There is no story that we're working towards. But when you go into a game and we're there and we get to build Kinos, if I get to decide on what Kinos looks like to some extent, I'm going to try to decide that. And I mean, what I'm wondering is whether or not we will get to vote based on, will the races vote? Will we get to vote on what kind of churches, what gods a church will be dedicated to? Maybe that can be a difference between the servers. How do we get to interact as players to make those decisions? But I think we're going to be invested. I mean, why would you not be invested in making that decision?
Let me understand and kind of clarify. I was specifically speaking to handling the voxels, and what you're saying actually makes a lot more sense. So in a way, as opposed to being the person, going to an empty plot of land in Kinos and actually taking out your line tool or your add tool, but maybe more something along the lines of there are predetermined combinations of structures that can exist, and you can put them together in different ways, or there are things that basically don't involve the same level of detail for building, but still allow the person, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to be the same level of detail when we're building. We will be able to build to some degree in EQ Next, but it's not going to be as robust as building in Landmark. And they said that the layout is going to be fixed. So I think it's just going to basically grow. And we'll be able to make some decisions maybe based on the resources that we bring. So I think we'll be going out and harvesting resources and bringing those back and having some decisions about the materials that Kinos is made out of. But we aren't going to actually have to go in and bit by bit build it ourselves.
Sure. Yeah, because I don't really want to be in EverQuest Next and see a bunch of mutilated voxels all over the place, because All right, cool. So that sounds really cool to me. I mean, just as a gamer, of course, I think all gamers want, especially in a game, in something that's based around immersion, that ability to feel like they can make change. So, I mean, those are the things that have always been missing in games like WoW and WildStar and all the new MMOs that come out. It's the one thing that if they did, I feel like that game would be so much more successful. Just actually implement some sort of real change in the game, or real decision making. But so what happens? Is it like Master? I'm gonna whip out a name here because I like to whip them out. Fugazi. Is it like Master Architect Fugazi? He decides, he's got the title, so he basically can build, pick the plan for the city, but then he gets assassinated by, Master Builder. Let's go
Shatari.
Why not?
Shatari will do it, yeah.
Shatari. So Shatari's no, we need more spaceships. We need more lasers, and then he kills Fugazi, and then he's like,
that's
so
exactly
that would be
how we got that spaceship in original Kinos.
So what? There's 50 master architects, and there's going to be how many cities that need to be built across how many servers at any given time? It's one of the things where I imagine it would just be a limiting resource. You wouldn't have on one hand, you might not have enough people to go around if it's only the people that win the awards that get to do the building. On the other hand, by the time we actually do get to start the building, it could be, upwards of a few hundred unique people. And I say unique people because a lot of people are repeat winners. So we actually really only have, I think, maybe 100 people that have actually won building titles in Landmark.
Yeah, but it's going to be, what it sounds like, since the layout is already set, it sounds like builders like Fugazi would be able to do some touches, but they wouldn't be doing the whole city. And I think we're going to have ancestral homes that we're discovering as well. So we aren't going to be building every single city. There are places there already there still.
So what about something like this? You send your raid team out to blah blah tower where the arcane mages live, and in that arcane tower they have schematics. Blah blah tower. It's a real place. But they have these schematics that are hidden in a chest, and so you go through, you do the dungeon, and then at the end you get schematics that unlock for your server or your group or whatever. So now by people achieving certain things, there are pre-made formats that can be chosen by those architects that that they can now build using those pre-made voxel pieces. So that's just a cool way that I could think of to really just put building in the hands of all players instead of just the the quote unquote architects of the game.
That sounds cool.
Anybody down for that? What do you guys think?
That sounds cool.
That sounds
anything that'll make building easier for the average person, sure.
Well, it's mostly I want to make sure that more than just the architects have the ability to make decisions, that it's also based on other aspects like PvE or PvP, that you have to do something to unlock these these different cool looking voxel forms. No, well, I'm on board with it. I'm supporting it. So,
Well, I'm actually, now that I think about it a little bit more, I'm wondering how much of what we're going to be building isn't actually going to be in the official cities, but maybe it's outposts that we establish after gaining factional control in an area. So it's not so much something that the permanent outposts are going to have, but more something that a combination of temporary stuff or stuff that's I think of like H1Z1, temporary to permanent. It's there until some other faction comes and knocks it down or takes it over and repurposes it. That would be
That's
pretty cool.
cool.
And that could even use prefab pieces that are designed to just kind of link in and sink into the terrain in different ways. Plus or minus maybe the slightest amount of, not voxelmancy even, but I guess using additional blending tools that would be specifically designed for EverQuest Next. So we wouldn't actually have to blend everything. We'd just be able to kind of push and pull the terrain a little bit to even things out or whatever we would need to do. Because we don't actually need to be able to use the landmark tools, just a very simple terrain tools. All we'd really need to be able to shape the area and put stuff down.
yeah. Well, until the day they show us, I guess this is all theory crafting, but it is the point of our show.
Yeah, it is.
So, you guys, of course, in chat, feel free to give us your opinion about what you guys would want to see in EverQuest Next, in relation to the ability to build versus architects, or who chooses the things that you build, those kinds of things. And would architect be like a class that you can achieve in the game? Like you're gonna be able to have many classes. Like, could you learn to be an architect, or do you think that you just are chosen by the secret hand of SOE?
Well, if Adventure from Landmark is allegedly going to be one of the classes, then maybe it's an upgrade off of that.
Profession
Is
probably
that-
more than a class.
Okay, that's fair to say. All right, cool. So why don't we jump back to the question then? Does anybody else have anything that they want to throw in here? About no? Okay. So the next part was, do you think in-game assets, buildings and locations, will be better or as good as our master crafters? Okay, actually, we already answered that one as well. I guess the real question is, when we enter EQN, will we be awed by what we see, or will we be thinking, oh, look, that's nice, and move on and hope it's the latter? So I guess, like, are you guys, from what I'm drawing from that question at the end there, is like, are we going to be jaded by seeing so many amazing things, Mark, and then feel like EverQuest Next is subpar? I don't think so.
I don't think they're going to let anything subpar go in EverQuest Next.
Exactly. That's how I feel too. Hopefully they'll all work together. But I think that my opinion, and I'm gonna get real. I'm gonna try to tiptoe around this because it's like forum speak. But I feel like SOE they're the professionals. They're the ones who are making this game. They're the ones who have years and years of development knowledge, and I feel like it's great that we give opinions and that we care a little, that we care and that we, try to help them out. That's of course, what I would do even if I wasn't, if they didn't have this sort of system that they have now for feedback. But I think that what they're going to do is probably going to be better than just about all the things that everybody else can do, because they have the experience, they have the money, they have the background, they have the things that we don't have. And if you do have them, then you should probably go work at SOE and actually make a change and a difference. That's how I feel.
On that, I'm going to do a little quick plug. They still need a UI designer. They've been looking for a while. They tweet it out every now and then. They don't have one. If you are a master of AS3 and scale form, they need you. They need you like a year ago, seriously. But if it's not ActionScript 3 and scale form experience, then I don't know. I think that's mostly what they use. You should check in, though. Anyway. There's... Damn, I just derailed it, didn't I?
No, it's okay.
It's
not unlike you.
Yeah, I'm gonna just throw it back to you. Back to Geo.
Oh, well, the concept was just that do you guys think that you're going to be let down by EverQuest Next. And like you said, Neuro, I personally, and you don't think that that they're going to let there be anything subpar in the game. I don't think. I think that everything that they make that is amazing, they're going to take ideas from, and we kind of already even answered this before. They're going to take ideas from it and they're going to implement into things that they create. You know, I believe in SOE, and if I didn't, then I wasted a lot of my time.
But part of the beauty of the way voxels work and the way everything can work is that it can be a work in progress. I think whatever we see of Kinos in the beginning is going to be cool just because it's going to be a new version of Kinos. But it can still grow. There's no reason why, if players say, hey, I can make that better, there's no reason for SOE to be like, no, we can't change it. Once it's been built, we can't modify it any. I mean, these places can grow. They're organic. It's a dynamic world.
It is.
Sure. But I mean, obviously, there's a level of unfinished that could go into the game. I mean, they're going to want to make sure that it's. Sorry about that
But
noise.
we're
They're going to
building
want to make sure that
Kinos
it's like,
anyway. We're building Kinos. It's going to be growing all the time anyway. So
True.
It's going to start off as a tent city, and then turn into something grander, and it can continue to turn into something more grand. And players can lend a hand to that. Probably.
Well, shit, I could build a tent. I mean, make me a master architect. I'll get that thing looking spiffy in a second.
I'd love to see you do a tent in Landmark, actually.
Dude, I did. I built like
Without artifacts.
like an outpost. Just sell, plug in my own build here. I built like a portal like sunk into the ground, and then outside there was like a tent, like a geological what is it, like who are the people who study like a landscape and like geography? I don't want to say it because I'm going to sound like a fucking idiot. Well, I already do, but somebody fill me in here.
Like
Not like a geologist. Would it be like a geologist, somebody who's studying rocks and whatnot? Like
Oh, yeah, that's a
really
geologist. I
rugged
thought you were
tents.
looking for like an anthropologist or something. No, you're geologist. Yeah.
So like I had like a tent that they were studying the artifacts, and they had like all these things. But I built the tent, man. It's there. Well, actually, it's probably not there anymore because
You mean
I
an
didn't
archaeologist?
pay
Yeah, there we go.
an archaeologist.
That's the one. That's the one.
Well, the fact that it took so long makes me not feel as dumb.
I'd love to hear what Zek envisions her role in EQ Next is going to be. Are you planning to play EQ Next, or you think you're going to be focused on Landmark?
I am definitely planning to play EQ Next. I can't wait. I'm very, very excited for it. But yeah, to just kind of, dare I add what you said a little bit there, Gio, that I do think we are going to be blown away. Look at what the devs have done in Landmark. I mean, I toured Dave's New Year's Eve light show. That was incredible. And honestly, I think just the time that they put into stuff like that light show, it was just so incredible. Like, they took what they gave us, showed us how to use it. We've turned around, showed them how to use it back, because we have all these like people who can spend 16 hours plus is just playing with the voxels. And I think how awesome what they are showing us is, I can't imagine what they're not showing us.
Yeah,
A thing for
that's a good
keep
point.
secrets.
And I don't blame them. I actually hope that they do, because I would love to get into like EverQuest Next and just be blown away. Which, come on, that has to be the case, right? It has
I don't
to.
think it'll be like walking into your first MMO though. Like, okay, so
Don't
I
judge it for me.
I played
I need
WoW
it.
first. I played WoW first before anything else. I know a lot of people here have probably played EQ first, but nothing will ever compare to that first moment I loaded up the game and I looked at it and I was like, oh, this is my first MMO. It's so beautiful. I honestly don't think that's going to be the same in EQN, because the technology is not going to jump graphic-wise, I don't think, as far from Landmark to something that you walk into and you're completely blown away by everything. I'm not saying that we won't be blown away, and I'm not saying the buildings and the structures and the props, the graphics and all that stuff, because I get mildly blown away every week when they introduced new props, like the emitters. The emitters were fantastic. Love those things. But I do think it will look similar to Landmark. And that I hope, well, at least for myself, I can't build myself up to that level of expectation that I'm going to walk into EQN and it's going to be this huge, different, oh my god, I love everything, it's beautiful moment. Like, I want it to be close to that, but I don't think it will look that much different.
You're protecting
Yeah, it's-
yourself. Noodle.
Everything. What?
It's not going to be that different from Landmark, and it cannot be, like you said, it cannot be that jump from anything that, you know, the first MMO experience of going from a mud or pen and paper into 3D landscape is. I mean, that's when we really are going to have the virtual MMO, the VR MMO, when we're jacked in, like Sword Art Online or what's the other one? Log Horizon. Come on, that's so old. Get with the times. Log Horizon and Sword Art Online.
Hey, I was trying to throw back
How
a
old are
reference to your generation. Anyway. So
You
actually,
stopped halfway through there, that statement.
anyway, I said as much as I needed to convey it. So,
Well, actually,
Diggs
you have a
dyes
good
his hair,
point
his
there.
beard gray, damn it. You don't know him. He's 19.
You have a good point there, Noodle. And just to kind of touch on what you said, I had a slightly different experience. So I mean, I do still agree with you, but only so far, because my first MMO experience, it was like, oh my gosh, this is an MMO. And then I played EQ2, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. Oh, look at that. Holy crap, there are voiceovers. The NPCs talk to me. And then player housing, I was sold. Like, I've never spent more money on a game thanks to player housing. And I think just, yeah, just a huge difference there for me. Like, it just kind of put every other MMO I had tried before that just to complete shame, honestly. And now it's like, why do I bother playing anything except an SOE title? And I just think that they have outdone themselves before. I think they can.
Yeah, and that's
I
where my
think Noodle-
experience differs, because I never played EQ or EQ2, so I don't have that difference. It was just always WoW. Always, forever.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, just a different experience, that's all.
I'm about
I'm
to
also a
psychoanalyze
little bit
you
of
on
a
there.
realist and slight pessimist, too, because if I'm that way, when it does launch, then I'm 10 times more blown away and excited. But I think we'll be blown away more by the AI and all of the other stuff than necessarily what it looks like.
you know, actually, on the subject of appearance, I think the built things, the designed things, that stuff is going to look good. The one thing that I'm wondering about potentially looking bad is the destruction, the devastation in the world. The idea that maybe the voxels don't conform the way that they should in every situation, that if you're shooting a fireball up at a downward slope, the way it deforms just looks ugly and nasty, and it's, you know, just needs to be fine-tuned after some amount of tracking down the issues. And so, you know, there's a lot of things that can come with that. Or the one that I'm maybe almost even a little bit more worried about, you can already do this in Landmark. You can write somebody's name, you can draw a funny picture, you can do all sorts of stuff that when somebody looks on the mini map, or the not the mini map, but the big map, you press M, you see the zoomed out view, you see that stuff written in there. So, you know, you could do like a romantic message like skywriting, you know, will you marry me? And you do it with the mining pick or whatever. And, yeah, that's romantic. But just as much, that's, you know, that really opens the door for abuse if people are able to use damage and destruction of the terrain as a way to not just troll other people, but to be downright offensive.
But people do that anyways. And that's been going on since the dawn of time, with people spelling stuff out with corpses.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Damage just might be a little bit easier way to do it.
That's true. That's true. Well, I think the fact that it's easier, you know, that, yeah, I don't know. It's just as much the trolliness factor as, you know, just the idea that the aesthetic of the world might get thrown off a little bit if the voxels aren't able to, I guess, receive damage in a way that looks good, that looks, proper in the context of things, and that we don't have any like weird seams that appear if, an explosion happens in a large enough area and two LODs have to be considered at once or something.
I think the worst trolling might actually come if they give us the voiceover stuff, which is... Those of you who've played H1Z1 already know you can run up and just scream at someone for no reason. I mean, I had someone run by me and then double back just to yell "sucky sucky" at me. And there's not even like, I don't even know why.
That's hilarious.
Because they can.
And I didn't say anything to them; they just did. And so I think something like that might have a little bit more potential for abuse. But I do the LOD stuff. That might be a hardware problem, actually.
Yeah,
I'm actually hoping they don't put voiceover or voice the whatever it is.
Actually,
voice
they've
stuff
already
into,
talked about they're going to not only
EQ.
have it, but it's going to have voice modulation if you want for your race. So I can actually make my character sound like a Karen. So when I'm doing the SO emote stuff, it can fully represent the character, and I'm just sitting there talking normally. So you can expect they're actually going to emphasize it, not.
Let's talk about like the Game of Thrones issue of like, obviously Game of Thrones is a fantasy world, and we're not going to forget that in this conversation. But like people, equate Game of Thrones to like medieval times, and then I've seen the argument like so much. It's like, well, the word "fuck" wasn't even invented until like 400 years ago, and I don't even know if that's accurate. But that's what I've heard seen argued, and like they're arguing basically that like there are like the jargon and the language that they use in that show is not equivalent to like the time frame that it encompasses. And so my question is like, how are we going to handle, you go up to a Karen and he's like singing 50 cents, like how are you going to like, that's just, it's too much. Like, I don't know if it's going to ruin the game for me, but it very well can, because I like being immersed into MMOs. It's why I play them. And if I have to like, listen to the, Justin Bieber's new hit coming out of like a hobbit's or a halfling's mouth, like I might just, I need to roll in a PvP server is what I'm learning right now, so I can murder them.
You need to roll in a very hardcore RP server, and then you won't have that problem.
Oh, there's going to be the trolls.
And then just
that are
stay
gonna
away
be
from
like,
that one shady tavern in the corner, and you'll be okay.
Come on, there's going to be one person who like super goes spy. They like pretend for like a year to be like really RP heavy, and then like after you develop this really intricate story around your character and you're in a relationship, with your other person, the person's going to be like, by the way, I'm a man. You know what I mean? Like that's going to happen because people are dedicated, man. So, people have too much time these days.
Somebody hurt you.
MMOs, man. MMOs.
What it kind of makes me think of is the Shakespeare effect that Shakespeare used, or because Shakespeare did Julius Caesar or whatever, and that the use of British accents from that point on to depict ancient, approximately ancient Western culture as a whole has kind of continued and permeated since then. I'm wondering, like, 500 years from now or whatever, will adaptations of, modern things representing like, the black culture and, gangster movies and stuff, will that also be done?
Ebonics?
What was that?
Ebonics?
Yeah, a little bit of that too, but like the idea that will that then be represented with a British accent too, because it's been long enough in its Western culture, so by default you use the British accent. But I guess going back to the subject of the voiceovers of the voice acting or the voice modulation in game, I think it'll be a little bit of a different context in EverQuest Next than it is in H1Z1. H1Z1, as it is, we're getting like the approximately congregated masses of players from like DayZ and all these games where people are literally walking around with their dongs hanging out all day long. That's because it's part of the game. So.
Did you say dongs?
Yeah, so it's something where you already have a troll-centric culture coming into it, it's a completely different sort of thing with EverQuest Next, and I think the other thing with EverQuest Next is beyond your reputation on the server through Storybricks interactions, your reputation on that server as a player will hold through. If you play on the game, if you're playing for a year and you're a total jerk, you're going to have a reputation as a total jerk. No one's going to trust you. Everyone's going to target you first when they can. You're going to get, undue bad treatment, or maybe it is due to you because you're a jerk. But whatever. It's the sort of thing that I think people being a troll and being a jerk is going to be much less of an issue in that environment, and people who are being a troll or a jerk, hopefully at least they're doing it in the context of their character and having whatever beef their ogre has with Ratanga or whatever. Oh no, they're gonna crawl on my legs, I hate them, they're disgusting. Yeah, welcome back, FandomX. By the way, a shout out to Sog and FandomX in chat here. You guys doing awesome.
Absolutely. The chat slags. I believe one of our old hosts, Lock6Time, coined us the chat. People running chat or the chat slag.
Actually, I came up with that. I was trying to think of what's the runoff from like a forge or a smelting. Oh, slag. Yeah, that makes sense.
True. Oh, what was the one that's like a British word? It's like to represent like somebody who's like not equal. Is what the point was. I thought either way. Yeah, you slags, get back to work. We love you though. But I don't know, man. What are you gonna do? I think I want to say that out of all of us here, actually Noodlecat too, we might have the most experience with the new generation of gamers because we play a game called, I don't know, can I say it? Can I say it on this show? I don't want to get smacked by the invisible hand, but League of Legends, right?
Yeah.
Shout out, gonna put on my Teemo hat. So I've seen what's coming. I've seen what's going to be coming in our future, and I think that EverQuest Next is going to be the first MMO for a lot of people. They're going to really have like their first experience, and they're going to be getting into it. It's going to be a lot for them to take in, but I still think they're going to be the kids that we play with in League of Legends, and I'm worried that they have no remorse. We're not ready. It's like the flood in Halo. Like they're going to come in mass numbers, and they're just going to troll all over the place with their memes and
Nami ult.
These kids.
That's what it is. It's a Nami ult. I don't know if we can even predict what it's going to be because you've got an MMO that's being created that pulls from so many different genres. It pulls from aspects of first-person shooters, of MOBAs, of MMOs. I don't know if you could say survival, maybe in the more landmark era, but not. I don't know about EQN yet. And that's going to pull from so many different groups of people. Plus, then you've also got your hardcore EQ players that have been playing since the dawn of EQ1 or the dawn of WoW or whatever. And they're two very big different groups. And usually those three groups don't get along very well. And I hope that it's not going to be just a troll fest or not going to be just arguing all the time between people, but this one's actually hard for me to predict. I can predict what H1Z1's going to be like because I've played other survival games. I can predict it's going to be like DayZ. There's going to be a lot of trolling and all of the other stuff that people do, but I don't know about EQN. It's the first one I can't really say.
Well, for like the League of Legends players or the Dota style MOBA people, it's not going to transfer into something where I think there's really the opportunity to create problems. There's not defined classes. Yeah, someone who's more of a healer-centric person, you would expect them to heal more, but everyone's kind of responsible for themselves in a lot of ways in EverQuest Next individually. So, I don't imagine it's really like, no, stay in your own damn lane, because there's no context to that. There's a lot of the situations and the competitive nature as well of Dota style MOBAs. People reporting everybody at the end of the match because they didn't like how the match turned out. If people started doing that in EQ Next, they'd find that their reports are going to lose a lot of weight really quickly. And when they start saying, oh, fuck you, I report you, blah, 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 and someone then does report them who has good standing, well, action will probably be taken against them. So I'm actually not too worried about the trolling factor, at least from the Dota style MOBA community.
Neuro, I'm gonna bring up an idol, a hero of mine. He brought me into the modern age. He helped me grow as a man. You may know him as Leroy Jenkins. All right, there's gonna be a Leroy in EverQuest, and
But that's playing
There's
the
gonna be a
character
Leroy.
as far as I'm concerned.
You could have Leroy as a follower now. He can help you with your missions and your
are you
garrison.
serious?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Leroy Jenkins is actually not an original character. He's a ripoff of Fippy Darkpaw.
Really?
Yeah, he is. He just, runs straight into danger. It's like, headlong into danger, no problem. And then dies shortly after. It's same thing, but it's being done by a player instead of an NPC. Nothing original. EQ did it first.
Well, either way, I still see many people running into danger.
Every game has feeders. We all know this.
Yes, I know.
The feeders are real.
Is EverQuest next? Because I believe that EverQuest next is going to be less like instanced, not in the sense of instances like actual like walk through a portal, but more in the sense that like it's supposed to have like a flow to it. It's supposed to kind of roll. Everything is supposed to the story's supposed to kind of roll together, right? And I think that is easier to troll than something that is more instanced and more separated by the systems that are clearly defined. So I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, you're totally right. There's going to be trolls in every game. I just like talking about them because, to be honest, I am a troll, and I'm going to go hide now. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, and especially the chat stuff. I'm excited.
I would say we trolled WoW in different ways. Sorry, Zach, I didn't mean to cut you off. Just a real quick one. Gio, you like to dance naked on the mailboxes. I like to ruin the market and be like, all right, any engineering, 5 gold or less, even cheaper for the small stuff, whatever. Nobody gets to make money on engineering.
Nice.
I'm partially wondering if the Blizzard devs actually prevented me from getting the schematic I was trying to get because I bottomed out the market. But that's how I troll. Zek, moving it up to you. I did not want to cut you off there, but I just wanted to squeeze that thought out.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking with the trolling, in my personal experience, the roleplay community is generally very helpful and friendly, and very much like you to learn the game, and is all about the lore, because the hardcore role players really base their roleplay off of the game lore and are very cautious about bringing in outside elements from other games or anything like that. So I think SOE might do well to really encourage that community to come on over to EQN, because it will kind of encourage people to be more friendly and helpful with new players, even if you're a new player yourself. I mean, just a few weeks in Landmark, somebody was asking me, hey, how do I do this? And I'm only in for like 3 weeks, and I don't know, I guess you can go like this, if you use this tool like that. And they were so impressed, and it just really kind of put things in perspective. I think the EQN application is probably going to be having your hardcore crafters and role players, initially anyway, helping out the new players and saying, this is how you do that. Because the role players are going to be like, what's this quest line all about? What is the heart of EQN?
We need to just clone you and put you everywhere because you're so positive.
I know. But seriously, it's a really amazing thing, because positivity, be the change you want to be in the world. I like that statement. And so I feel like I was used, Zek, at some point in the past year, and then like slowly I've been like dwindling down into the I've been hanging out with Sog too much.
You started playing leagues again. No, you started playing leagues again. That's your problem.
No, but Sog taught me to have opinions, and so now I have more opinions than I used to, and it's like, yeah, I feel like I do less about. I care, like. I look at things more for like how they're going to be, like how they can go negative, as opposed to before where I was just like, yeah, live rainbows and lollipops and MMOs. So, but I wish, I hope to be like you one day again.
I already contributed my rainbows and lollipops.
I have to issue a disclaimer. I am definitely a pessimist, but I've been working very, very hard, and I've changed a lot since playing Landmark. because the SOE staff is such positive people. I mean, they're definitely not going to say anything bad about an SOE product ever, no way. But at the same time, it's like, all these strangers that have no reason to be nice to me are nice to me. I definitely want to take more care in what I say. I've been working very hard and being more positive with what I have to say, and anytime I have a critique, keep it private.
Well, I can say they
So
are
I'm
that
matching my
positive
friends.
in person as they are, as they show us. So, like, what they show us is not just marketing. I mean, I've spent a lot of time with them in person, and they are that awesome. Like, they don't just
Yeah, I mean,
put on a face to show us, to get us interested in the game. Like, they really are really, really, really excited, like we are, to get something out there that we all love to play.
Yeah, full-fledged confession. There are times there's that one person in general chat that I'm just like, no. And I'm like, Dexel, I would never say that. Backspace. I was like, please help us keep chat positive. So, yeah, there are times I have myself and have those moments. I, believe it or not, have been accused of being a troll. I kind of have on a couple times. So, I appreciate the thought that you think of me so well, but I am still human. I have very angry thoughts sometimes.
But you're like a treasure troll. You're just so happy.
Well,
We all
I'm
get
curious to
disappointed at
see,
something.
I'm curious to see how the different communities will come together based on the rule sets, and I think we've already started to see some fascinating rule sets on H1Z1, and really wondering what our server rule sets can be like, and which groups and communities will gravitate to which Twitch stream groups will gravitate to which. I think that's going to be a key factor in what our different communities are going to be like, because maybe all the League of Legends folk go to one type of server and dominate that kind of server, and people who have a different mindset will go to, different servers. We'll just have to see. I don't know.
Yeah. I actually wonder if there's going to be even close to the amount of rule set variation that we see for H1Z1 with EQ Next. I honestly don't think so. I think they're going to keep it like your classic for your PvP, your PvE, your RP PvP, your RP PvE, and maybe even do less than that and just call it PvP and PvE.
No,
RP and not RP.
the roundtable response for that has them really excited to see what they can do differently. So they're looking to do more different types of specialty servers than what we've ever seen before. I don't even think we're going to have a straight up PvP server or a straight up RP server. I think it's going to be a mix of a bunch of things, because the PvP that Terry mentioned was, what if we have PvP only able to happen on people's claims or land grants? No, he said player built or player designed spaces. So it could be only player made arenas or player made battlegrounds. I mean, there's more options that we have because we have voxels, and the players are able to create more stuff. So we'll just have to see what they come up with, and I think it's going to be way more robust than what we've seen before. I was shocked. I have to say, it's not H1Z1, but I was shocked by some of the combinations that they did with the PvE servers, because I thought it would just be a straight up PvE, but they did mix them with PvE and headshot only and first person only, and that's kind of cool. I want to see what communities do spring up.
I'd really like to see a procedural dungeon crawl server where instead of any of the normal content, all of that stuff might be accessed in various different ways and interspersed throughout, but it's mostly break EverQuest Next out of the normal format. Instead, play it more like, say, Rogue Legacy or like a hardcore Terraria or something. You start in the world, and the stuff that you find and craft and stuff along the way is basically your tools, and your it's essentially like a survival mode sort of thing. something like that I would love to see, where instead of the emphasis on you'll see the content over, the course of many years as this story unfolds, instead it's here's all the awesome stuff we have in the game minus the story, except maybe a couple of little quests here and there. There's a lot of different loot. There might be some different stuff or some variations that make more sense for the context. Go out, have fun, whoop ass, try to survive, see how far you can get, try to set some records, and you'll be rewarded for it in some way or another. I would love that. I would probably play the hell out of that and do like monthly sessions or weekly sessions or something on that. Get a group and just have at it.
That sounds cool.
And to kind of bounce off that, yeah, I wonder if it's going to be the kind of scenario where they're so different, where like you just kind of mentioned, like people will just have multiple characters on multiple different servers and kind of just on a whim every day, figure out where they want to go and what kind of game they want to play, which should be interesting. Well, on that note, what kind of all right, let's do like around the casting desk here. Let's kind of like talk a little bit about what your ideal server would be like, and we can start with Diggs, the top right.
Oh man, because I was hoping one day maybe I'd get to do a show with Locke, because Locke blocked me from his Twitter due to PvP discussion. But he brought up something that was that's a cool idea that I had been thinking a lot about, and we had a 75-page discussion about it on the forums back in July and August about PvE and PvP on the same server. What could get PvE players to want to play with PvP servers, PvPers on the same server? And I'm still not sure that that's possible, but I kind of would want to play around to see just if it's possible for PvE and PvPers to play together.
I got it. Impending doom. Whatever it is that comes through that wall, player or enemy, is going to just rip you to shreds. So you better do what you can to hold it up and keep it reinforced. That sort of thing, where it doesn't matter what the thing is that's going to kill you. Something's going to kill you as it comes over the other side. There's enough of it and a lot of it to know that you're most likely not going to survive unless you start running right now. So that then puts the situation, whether it's PvP or PvE or a combination of the two, to stand your ground and try to help reinforce that wall, or tuck tail and run, cut your losses, and lose a little bit of rep with the faction and be known as a coward throughout the world, but you survived.
So hold on, let me get this straight, Diggs. So your optimal server is a place where PvE and PvP. Go ahead.
That's the one that I've been thinking of most recently, but actually the one that I've wanted since the debut is what I call the Anoric server, where
so you thought about
all of the.
Okay.
My favorite one is where all of the rallying calls fail. It's like just a hell.
That's awesome.
Let it run for like 2 or 3 months and just let all the rallying calls fail, and then drop players into it and try and fix it. Like that. That's just one server like that. That would be cool.
That sounds legendary. Man. All right, cool. And what about you, Zach? What do you think?
So that's actually a really good question. I'm glad you asked. I would say my ideal server is kind of a blend, really. EQ2 has this fantastic thing that I don't know if it's possible to. It probably is, but kind of modify the concept where if you open up your character menu, there's a little button you can tick, and it throws up that, hey, I'm role-playing right now. Basically, kind of like warn everybody what you're saying in character, and you don't like scare anybody or anything like that, because them dark elves, they get scary sometimes. I was just thinking that a similar thing could probably be applied where you could throw up like one of those flags and say, hey, PvP, then everybody, it's open world, but you have to have your PvP flag up, or open world RP, and have your RP flagged up. Maybe a little bit of both. Do PvP while you're role playing, and just kind of a mix and match, so that you don't necessarily have to have a bunch of servers with a bunch of different rule sets. You just kind of have a little extra functionality through the UI. Might kind of help everybody come together a little bit more, and kind of force different communities to kind of learn to interact with each other a little bit.
So your ideal scenario is where people essentially get to choose what they want to do, when they want to do it, but still like have them all interact and and be able to be share each opinions with each other and their ideas with each other on the same server.
Yes, that said, I think it may be warranted to perhaps have hardcore versions, where like hardcore PvP, where you're automatically flagged when you log in for PvP, for example, and that is the emphasis, or hardcore P, because face it, so there isn't always a blend there, so that people who do enjoy hardcore version of those can, without hurting somebody else's game experience. Because, like you said, I don't want to listen to some jamming out 50 if I'm hardcore RP.
Yeah, no, definitely. The RP stuff can really get thrown away when there's so much competition, and so much emotion that comes from that PvP environment. I feel you. Well, it looks like I'm next. Thank you for shedding what I think would be a pretty good server. I like that idea too. My ideal server looks something like PvP all the time. It's never an option. Like, you have no choice. You live or you die, and the people around you decide that. But it also needs to have hardcore RP. So like everybody is really into their character, but like I could turn, I can play off of the RP and just turn around and kill my friend, and I could do whatever I want. Essentially, I want to be able to. I feel like when you add PvP as a blanket thing for everybody to interact with, then it forces it forces socialization in some way. It forces you to interact with other people, and I like that because I don't know why, because someone psychoanalyzed me a little bit later.
I just wouldn't play that, so it would just not force me to be social. I just wouldn't play that game.
True. I mean, of course, I'm talking about everybody who was on that server, right? So, but yeah, so idea is hardcore RP, just constant PvP, and lots of drunk dwarves everywhere. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but I just want that to be the case on the server I'm on. So
you want to play
what about you,
Game
Noodle?
of Thrones?
Pretty much. I want to be. Who would I? All right, now the question after this question is going to be, if you are one character from Game of Thrones, who would you be? But no, seriously. So Noodle, what's your ideal server?
That's a hard question, because I have... My ideal server is where my friends are at, to be completely honest, because I have friends that like to play all different things. Like, my husband's hardcore PvE, will not play PvP, period. Except for leagues, for some reason. I'm not sure. Crazy. But, I know. Well, two broken monitors, we know this. But yeah, so he's only likes to play PvE in MMOs. I have played everything. I've started out playing on a PvP server. I've played PvE, but I don't know. For me, MMO is more about the socialization than it is the immersion or killing people or even killing bosses. Because frankly, WoW's pretty boring without people. Even H1Z1's kind of boring without people. So I don't know. I go where people are at.
Yeah.
So I'd probably end up having characters on different types of servers. Which one was my main? I don't know. That's
where your friends are.
It's too
is
hard.
Essentially your answer.
Yeah.
That's a good one. What about you, Neuro?
All right, so
I'm sure this one's going to be interesting.
I'm going to bring up 2 points and then give you my answer. So the first point is the idea of what hardcore PVE. I hear this hardcore PVE, and I'm thinking like, well, is that like the single player Elder Scrolls games where you can literally fight and attack anybody anywhere, and social consequences will ensue for doing such? Or if you really want to be a exploiter, you just sit there mashing the taunt button until they actually attack you, and then because they've initiated, you can freely kill them? Is that I kind of think of that, and then when I think of that for EverQuest Next, I think of the idea of you're going on a raid with, some important character or whatever from the story, and you and your buddies decide, hey, after he gets hit a couple of times, we're going to take out his healer, and then we're going to kill him. We're going to do this amid the chaos in the battle, and then we're going to sneak off. And actually being able to do that and execute that and have world-affecting consequences for it. I kind of worry, unfortunately, with that is the idea that some people will just go around trying to kill people that are important to the story just to be like, oh, well, I just want to see how Storybricks reacts to it, how everything gets distributed to everyone else, or what happens to the game when this sorts of stuff happens. So I that's almost like it would be almost a technical challenge on their end to figure out what they would do for Storybricks to handle all of those considerations. Because I'm sure some NPCs probably are potentially able to die in some situations, but I don't think top most important people that you expect to be seeing 10 years down the road are going to get, assassinated by 2 thugs in the middle of a war. So there's the PvE, the hardcore PvE, the idea that you can attack anybody, and that's almost like, same as hardcore PvP, the idea that you could attack any player at any time. Now, the other thing, a different sort of thing that I was thinking about during this discussion is the idea of only having a server that the only way PvP can be engaged is if it's something where the person is actively opposing your interests. You're in one faction, they're in the other faction. Kung Fu fight. You're in a guild, they're in a guild, both guilds are at war, one declares war on the other, Kung Fu fight. Whatever the consequences, you've been sent on a quest to do A, they've been sent a quest to do B, you're trying to save something, they're trying to destroy it, you meet at about the same time, the words I'm about to say. Kung Fu fight. So it's the idea that you're not necessarily going to be open world ganking people, but if you have an objective and they have an objective and there are 2 countering objectives, 2 opposing objectives, that the opportunity then is available for you to engage in combat freely with them. That doesn't mean that you can't also freely communicate with them. There could be other opportunities that could come out of it. Maybe you don't fight. Maybe you end up sharing information and going your separate ways. But that's the sort of thing that I'd really like to see as a possibility, not necessarily as the goal for the rule set. Now, to give you my actual answer for what kind of server rule set is specifically what I want to play in, what I want to be living in with my Karen for the next 10 years or whatever, we don't have enough information about the game to even know that at this point. It's so far away. There could be building versus non-building servers. There could be, all sorts of different, variations. There could be things that they don't even think of that we suggest, and they put in 6 months to a year down the road and make a new server type out of it. So at this point, it's really hard for me to say in particular, though I would say I would be leaning towards the second example that I gave of PvE until people are actually in conflict, and then be PvP. I like the idea of just ganking someone in the open world if I have to, but not everyone likes that, and I know a lot of people I want to play with don't like that. So you're right, I definitely agree, though. Playing with your friends, that's the most important.
Cool. And you brought up a good point that I think I would like to get everybody else's opinion about this too. Like, in a scenario where they come out with servers, they continue to come out with servers over time. Like, do you think that's a good model for an MMO? And I'm gonna base my opinion would be maybe not, and the reason would be back when I think about when I played WoW, which is my most hardcore of the MMOs that I played. I had in about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, I had about 200 days played on one character. That's like a lot of days played, and I really committed to the character. The thing about an MMO that I've always liked, and the thing actually when Baby Ken was on, we talked about this, like in an MMO, you tend to really attach yourself to your character, really attach yourself to who you are. Like, so is the question I would have now is, do they make it so your character can go to different servers at different times? Or do they make it so that, or if they didn't do that, would people really be willing to give up their character, their connection with that character, just to go play a different game type for a little bit?
Life of consequence, so they can't really have free server hopping and it's too attached to the AI for you to be able to just jump from server to server. Like, if the NPCs are reacting to you because you killed Nagafen, you jump to another server and Nagafen is already still alive, then,
right.
The NPCs can't respond to you correctly.
Right. Well, that's also then the person who killed Nagafen is also a void on that server, and they don't know who to target for, anything that would be associated with that. Though I don't think it's one person that's going to kill Nagafen individually. That's kind of ridiculous. But hey, but no, I definitely get what you're saying there. I don't really think there is going to be any sort of server swapping. I think the way they plan to solve this, and we've talked about this in the past a little bit, is that there's some amount of stuff that you might be able to achieve that when you create a new character on that server or on any other server, they will start with those things. There might be more minimal things. They might be decent things like having some of the classes unlocked ahead of time. Not necessarily that you can go into the tier 5 class when you start the character, but the process of getting into it, instead of having to find it in the world and unlock it and all that, it's just, you have to find the gear and then talk to somebody or something. Who, some simpler process. Something that makes it a little bit easier for someone who has established on one server to maybe want to go to another server. But I also see, some other sorts of things possibly being done. The idea, and I think this has also been brought up here, if not on a live feature rant, the idea of giving players the opportunity to play in a legacy battle that they've already fought in this battle on their server, but it's a newer server. They're engaging in the battle for themselves. So you can essentially, you kind of go back in time and be kind of the hero in that battle where you were just, a normal soldier the last time because it was, your first time in it. So that could be a really weird sort of thing, and whether it's taking an instance of your character and then giving you some reward back on that character later, or you're actually transferring a literal copy of your character on there and you've got a duplicate over on that separate area, or however they would want to work it out. I think that would be really awesome, and it'd be a great way for people to be able to engage in things with other players while still maintaining their character.
Yeah, sounds. I mean, it's. I guess this is really an opinion, a person. Every person's going to have a different take on whether or not they'd be willing to, what it takes for them to give up their character and their time. So, like Zach, what do you think? Would you be willing to give up your, the character that you've played with for a while on one server to, try out a new type of server, or do you feel like connections with your characters that supersedes the desire to play a different game type?
Well, to answer your first question, Khaleesi. I would pick Khaleesi.
Oh, we forgot.
Yeah.
Nice. Mother of Dragons.
Yeah. So
I want to be the warlock just so I could have that weird accent where he's like, Mother of Dragons. I love the way he says it. You know what I'm talking about? I just love the way he says it. He's like, Mother of Dragons. I will take your dragons now. Whatever. Sorry. As you were saying.
Right. So that is very hard. I enjoy RP once I started learning how to do. Like, I really don't enjoy an MMO as anymore unless there's an element of I'm when I create a character. Before I learned RP, it was I am my character. But after role play, I go into incredibly depths to create an entire alternate personality and make sure that who I am as a person is at least a little bit different than my character. So, I mean, at a certain point, I still get very attached except for all this character, right? But to completely dismiss that character and to go to another, I don't know whatever it is that I'm going for. I have to be very, very convinced it's going to be really awesome. And that said, I think I just create a brand new character for that experience for that server, and then be able to go back to the my roleplay character and still be able to pick that back up again. Maybe like have my roleplay character as a primary and have a limited number of secondary characters where it's not as huge of an impact on my character and things like achievements. Like maybe everything that we get is for the primary character, and you can still play the stuff on the other servers, but it's secondary and doesn't necessarily, like, if you kill an Agafen on, because that's the example we're using, right, is if you kill an Agafen on your secondary character, nothing really happens to you or something, and maybe you have like this little icon or something that says you're on a secondary character or something, so that people and NPCs don't react to you the same way.
Okay. Well, yeah, and it's a good opinion from an RP perspective, like to see somebody who like you've mentioned gets really into characters, and I can share that immersion, so I know the feels, and that suggestion is actually it's pretty good one. I don't think I've heard anything like that. That's pretty original. So thanks. And Diggs, what do you think? What's like? Would you be willing to? Yeah. Go ahead.
I'd have to create a different character if I was going to be on a different server because my relationships would be different. So, yeah, I would probably I could not have my character server hop, but I'm sure I would have alts. I already have 5 alts planned for both Landmark and EverQuest Next. So,
Nice.
you know, that's just on one.
So you're fully committed to this idea of just like, you're a player. You're not a player. You just play a lot.
Yeah, I'm an actor.
Are you really?
So, yeah.
Oh, cool. Nice. All right. So, Noodle Cat, of course, to close us off here. What do you think? Would you be willing to leave your friends or maybe follow your friends to go to a different server, but potentially lose that intimacy that you've had with Miss Noodle Cat, Miss Noodle Catarino? I don't know what you name it.
It wouldn't be Noodle Cat. I don't use that as that is not an MMO name. I can't. It just not realistic. That's about as far as my immersion goes. So, well, the tune I have in WoW, Valos, I've had her since vanilla, and she has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of days played. And I've also server transferred with her somewhere between 5 and 6 times over the last 10 or 11 years. And also faction changed with her about 3 or 4 times, so I get more attached to the amount of things completed and done with a character, and the just having that single one. And then I do have 8 or so alts, but like she's the one that I raid with because I like playing as her. Like I don't have another feral druid, so usually it's based on the class, but because we don't have like set races to set classes, I'll probably end up just having one per server type or group of people, I guess. That's just how
Fair enough.
That's just how I play. I mean, I did the same thing when I played Final Fantasy. Was I had one because you could be all classes and all professions, so there was no need to have another one.
Yeah. Well, if there's anything that you've shown and that this whole conversation has shown is that really everybody plays for a different reason. Everybody has different preferences, especially when it comes to like their character in an MMO. You know, there's so many possibilities as far as how you engage with your character, how often you play. You could be like Diggs. You could have 20 alts. That was an exaggeration, but I like to exaggerate. Or you could be like like Zek, who's very attached to your one character and wants to commit yourself to that. To that personality and that role, and they're all valid. They're all awesome, and I'm glad that SOE is providing us with a platform that we can hopefully all play these out the way we want to. So, anyway, I don't know. Are we going to continue? It's 7-Eleven, like literally 7-Eleven right now.
Yeah.
Are we going to continue? Are we going to continue? I'm hanging out. I'm having a good time. I hope that you guys in the chat are enjoying the show. But are we going to close it out here soon, or do we want to keep going?
Do we have questions?
Sure. Does anybody, if anybody in the chat has, or if anyone in the show, do you have a question, Zach?
No, I was just about to say exactly the same thing. I'm okay to keep going, and this would be a great opportunity to see if anybody in chat has questions that they want to hear our opinions on or something.
For sure. All right, cool. So feel free to throw your questions up in the chat. Usually we ask that you put a bracket in front or behind, but so we can make sure to snag that up and throw it in the Skype call.
I think one other thing on the subject of alts that sometimes gets overlooked. In an ideal situation, one character is all you'll ever need. In practice,
That's how I feel.
I've never had an inventory small enough to warrant, or large enough rather, to warrant just one character. I always have to have a storage alt. It does not matter what game it is. I think EVE Online was the only game I didn't need a storage alt because there were no storage limits for the most part. Other than that, WoW, yeah, I had lots of alts for storage. I just kind of started poking around in arcades a little bit with some of my buddies because they had started getting into it. And I realized immediately, I'm going to need a loot alt. This is dumb. Landmark, not only a loot alt. Hell, I needed a freaking template alt because we didn't have the ability to buy more space at some point, or I just wanted to
Claim
be cheap
alt.
about it. Yeah, claim alt, exactly. So,
Yeah.
it's one of those things where in an ideal situation, one person will only ever need one character ever to be able to do everything in the game, but realistically,
I won't.
it doesn't always happen.
Just for me, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. This is the closest I get to being a troll, I would say, I guess. That I never said that I don't have alts. I said that I get very attached to the characters I create. Perhaps I was misleading in that, in the sense that my reason for creating alts would be create different kinds of characters and experiment with different kinds of personalities, roleplay purposes. But other than that, yes, for mechanical purposes, I would totally agree that you should never need more than one.
Yeah, I'm not saying nobody should have more than one. I think the ability to make alts is fantastic and should be promoted, especially, like for Diggs is doing, RPing and machinima and stuff like that. I'd love to actually be able to, in EverQuest itself, be able to do like a keyframe based sort of recording with the different characters, so you can kind of play out a scene with the different characters you've set up and done in an area. To actually make real deal machinima without having to, hack the game and make a, home sandbox server and all the legal issues that come with doing something like that. So yeah, that, alts are a great thing, but for me, I really just want to have one character and that's it. I don't like having to mail stuff back and forth, and
Yeah.
That's me.
And a big thing for like when I think back to, again, my WoW experience, I made alts. I made every class to level 60, but the only reason was because I couldn't be every class on one character, right? So that's another scenario where you're showing that, like, where I would agree that, like, having the ability to do it all for one character would have been very cool. But again, actually, here's an interesting thing or like how I would look at it, and I feel that it's interesting anyway. Don't know if you guys care, but it's like I feel like sometimes multi-classing can pull away from immersion because I feel like it doesn't make sense for my one character to be so epic that he can literally do anything he wants. I think that it makes more sense that like, you know, he follows his goal and like, you know, makes a decision to do something and it means something. That's how that's what I think makes sense. And so like in that way, like for classes, I think that I like, or I should say this, I think that the ability to make alts is great, and you shouldn't have to make alts for like Zach said, mechanical purposes or any technical things like banking, mail, let's say housing, whatever. You should, but as far as like each character, I still think should have something unique about them that separates them from another character that you might be able to create that gives them essentially personality. It gives them something that, even if you don't like it, that's who your character is, and you can't take that away from him because you just decide that you want to. And I don't know, that feels bigger than me, and I like that in the game. It's bigger than my wants. It's like more about what he wants.
I think people will, even if everybody has 40 classes, they aren't going to play the classes the same. And even though you have the option for 40 classes, I mean, I'm not going to play a tank. I don't like tanking. So I might take some abilities from a warrior, but I'm probably not going to actually equip a warrior because I don't like to tank. And I think that's probably true for quite a few people, although some people like to be flavor of the month and do what everybody else does. So again, there's just going to be a spectrum of how people choose to play with that, but I don't think that that having the option to have or collect 40 classes means that everybody's going to try and play. I think most people will play those uniquely if they can. Those people who value being unique will play those characters in a unique fashion, and those who like to be like everybody else will try to be like everybody else, I guess. The cool thing for me about the multi-classing and the keywords is that you can actually make a choice to focus on keywords and be a Shadow Affliction character and swap your classes to have focus on all classes that are Shadow and Affliction. So your choice is a little bit different. It's not necessarily your class that's defining you. It can be the keywords that are your theme that defines you. And that's kind of interesting to me as a different method of progressing your character.
Yeah, to kind of like talk a little bit more about what I meant. It's not that I just feel like when I create a character, if I pick, his role in the world, like, he's a hunter, let's say, or he's a warrior or whatever. It kind of, from the moment that I start my character, I build this backstory, like kind of passively in my mind. It's like, okay, well, he grew up, this is his scenario. Like, and even sometimes, the game plays into it because they tell you something about your past or whatever. But, like I try to basically give my character a story so that I can feel immersed into what he's doing. And when I have the ability to just so easily have the option to swap. It's not that I think that it's not bad, or not that it's like overpowered in combat or anything. It just specifically takes away from that feeling that I have of like, I made the decision, I have a life choice. This character has like sort of, there's things that define him as a person in this world. And so that's what I mean when I say, that's why it affects me in a little bit of a negative way, because it takes away from my ability to do that.
But it shouldn't, because if I choose to be a thief, I can still be a thief and primarily a thief, but maybe I like having the warrior's leap. And so I'm a thief that, does my stealth and, whatever else I'm doing, affliction, whatever else I'm doing, but I can still do the warrior's leap. That's one thing that I've taken from that class, and that plays into my story. But again, the cool thing is with EQ Next, if I want to be a stealthy character, I can do that with a variety of classes that use Shadow and something else. I don't have to just be stuck in one class, but it's still the same role. That's kind of the interesting thing, I think, with the EQNX multi-classing.
It's just based on what origins are available. You're not going to have every origin available on every class, so there are going to be some limitations. I almost feel like the classes themselves are maybe a suggestion, a guide for what that, what you can use the character for when that class is equipped. It is by no means like you're a warrior, bam, that means you're a tank automatically. Warrior can really be, just as sneaky as a rogue, could have just as big a ranged emphasis as a caster, and just completely paradigm break the idea of warrior equals tank. In fact, I think that every class is going to have a lot of opportunity to break the paradigms that we've kind of known for those names and labels for classes, and instead we're going to be seeing a lot of opportunity to really experiment with things and do stuff. An idea of a stealthy Shadow Knight or a stealthy Paladin. Even stealthy Paladin's a hilarious idea. You'd never think of a stealthy Paladin before, but the idea that they've got stealth skills and they'll just come up from out of nowhere and bam, you can't kill that person. That person's got an instant bubble. That person just got healed, and now I'm in the middle of all three of them. You got to deal with me while they can go away for a second. And it's just you just come out of nowhere. It's like, what the hell just happened? So the stealth paladin is a hilarious idea, but it could be super effective.
Well, that's for me, I almost feel like that breaks immersion, and I'm going to explain why. And it's because, like, I understand in the heat of a battle, like 5 people fighting 5 people, let's say, like, yeah, you're probably going to, not notice what's going on around you. But let's say like a 2v2 or a 1v1 scenario, like if I'm fighting somebody, all of a sudden I hear, this paladin who's, paladins are usually holier than thou type of like for justice type of people. And they usually are pretty, like in all games that I've ever played a paladin, they're usually pretty like flashy. They got their big golden armor and their hammer that's twice the size of their body, so I'm just saying that like, that's not something that is really like
It's
factually,
Loki's
even though it's a
paladin.
fantasy game.
It's Loki's paladin,
It's what?
basically. The paladin of, the god Loki,
Oh, true. Okay.
There's
Isn't he a superhero? No?
Loki is used in a lot of different ways, but he started off as a god.
Trickster god. Trickster god.
Okay.
Yeah. It was
So how
also
does
the
that relate to a
inspiration for the
paladin?
mask. But, well, if that's the god
Because
that
a paladin
he
is worshipping a god,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay. So maybe what we're talking about here is like almost taking away from like classes. It's not really so much a class that you're defining yourself with. It's more of like your abilities, which I think was what Diggs was trying to say before.
It's
so
a
like
role,
yeah.
but your role
And that's cool.
isn't
That actually is
necessarily
cool.
stuck with the class. Yeah.
I'm down for that.
They want to break the meta. That's what they want to do.
Or got top.
No, but we already do that in games too. I mean, you used the example of a paladin, but I was a bear tank for a very long time. I tanked everything. 10 years of it. Tanking, not so much anymore. But still, when I did PvP or anything else, I was a cat. So I'd stealth in as a cat and then pop into bear and I'm going to eat your face now. So, I mean, I don't think that type of architect is completely out of games. It's just not as common as the, like, what you'd think of the Trinity when you think of classes. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's got a place. I think some things might be a little bit weird, but
Yeah.
Eh.
I mean, as for the immersion part, it could just be a very temporary, short-range sort of thing. Like, you've only got 5 seconds to be invisible before you pop out. So you were literally just waiting behind a tree. You're hiding behind a tree, and it's like, okay, now's my time. And you run out, and, I'm a paladin, I save you. Or maybe you
you
aren't.
should do
that
a
needs to be
flashy
an
light
animation.
port thing.
Yeah, whatever it might be.
Sure. Actually, to really quick, I saw that Baby Kenneth had said, she said, does it really break immersion, or does it break the immersion of your preconceived notions of what classes and races should be? And I just wanted to maybe to kind of say, I take the preconceived notions that I have come from lore, right? Like, so they're based on like the story of whatever I'm playing. Now, to be fair, I don't know what paladins are like in in EverQuest Next. But if all paladins, they're defined by the word paladin. So if all paladins do this thing, I just want to make sure that they, there's not a paladin who's doing something that's totally off of the role of what he's doing and call him a paladin. I'd rather him be something different, which is more like what Diggs was saying, less of like these really like, set in stone like classes and more of like these different things that you can put together to make your own role in the world. So I like that a lot.
It's probably what
Bam.
they're going to do, though. Usually they leave like those classes that everyone knows to be one
shit.
thing, like
Oh.
a warrior.
Hold on 1 second. Sorry.
Way to break it! Broke the stream. But no, I was just saying, they usually leave those main classes alone, for the most part. So, like, if you pick to be a paladin or you pick to be a warrior, you, by equipping this other weapon or this other thing, you then become, a Templar or something else. Can't think of most of the classes that I've played in other games, but, things like that. So because a lot of people are so connected to being a warrior, which means you're one thing, or being a paladin, or being a priest, or whatever. And it kind of would do them a little bit of a disservice, I think, to completely break that. But that's all just naming, really. I mean, that's just a naming of a class, and there's going to be 40 different ones, so I don't think you're going to be paladin number 23 or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fantastic, Gio.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm being
Sorry, we all
hijacked
got
by Dave.
distracted by chat here.
Sorry.
Dave G just like popped up on my laptop. He's like, "Welcome to Landmark." I'm like, "Damn it, I've already been here."
I wish I
I'm
could
gonna
forget him.
just mute. I was gonna mute this while he says his thing because you can't skip this at all.
That's a
It's
good
here. It's here for a good.
Well, you can skip it in the user options, but never mind.
I had to endure that 3 times in a row one day.
I've only had to see each one once, ever.
I've crashed so hard.
I
that
watch
to
it
play
again and
before.
again, but I do it on purpose because I want to see it again. I thought it was very.
I hope I'm not sucking up saying that, but probably. I don't know. I found it very interesting.
For a good majority of the forums, I wish it would play again and again.
Yeah.
See, you can't deny agreeing with me there, Gio.
Yeah. That's the one sound emitter I want, is something that just plays that, so when somebody walks on my claim, they're just hearing the whole thing until they leave.
Or like has like a little hologram of his excited face.
That would be the best if they could do that for us too, or like a little picture-in-picture sort of thing, like what's the company that used to do those in every single game? I can't remember.
Welcome to beta. Welcome to beta.
Yeah.
Welcome to beta.
Well, I mean, they'd get the idea at some point.
Still going on.
I've thought of maybe running it as a commercial during the break for content and creations. Wouldn't be a bad idea now that I think about it.
You have to make it Twitch though. So like, it's a hologram that's like stuck. So that way, someone comes up to you and is like, "Hey, I think your prop here is broken," and you're like, "That's the point."
Oh, that'd be great.
This must happen now. Someone, quick, call the devs. Be fantastic.
All right.
All right, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. Just took over. It takes over my life every time. Actually, I had one. There was a bug that I had where it infinitely played every time I started the game. Oh, now, and I have a new laptop, so I don't know how to turn this volume down. It's not as obvious as you would hope.
Just
So
close the laptop. There you go.
yeah, I can't do that right now. All right, there we go.
Oh, you're
Anyway, so
okay, yeah.
yeah, so either way, I think that we could maybe call it call the show today? Or is everybody
Yeah.
happy with the amount of information that we provided our lovely viewers with?
Yeah, I think.
Hopefully, you guys
learned
learned something good. Oh, we definitely had some good discussion, and we got to learn a lot about some of our new hosts here, and definitely our new guest, Zach. So, Zach, do you mind if I call you Zach? Even though I already called it to you
No,
three
not
times.
at all. I know that Zek Saidu is very difficult for a lot of people to pronounce. So many people are pronouncing it wrong, honestly. I'm like, just call me Zek. It's
There we go. So thank you so much to everybody in the chat. Thank you, of course, to our mods or chat slags today. Tsog and I think Velix and Phantomex are here as well. So of course, shout out to those homies. And why don't we go around here, starting with Zach, if you want to just maybe talk a little about what your plans are for the next coming months and what you think you'll be doing in Landmark and whatnot.
Ooh, wow, okay. That's a pretty weighty question, but yeah, sure. Let's see. Well, I'm definitely hoping to make it to SOE Live. That is kind of on my radar. I've been saving. I don't know if it'll happen, but we will see. I've been dabbling with the notion and testing and trying to find a way that I can stream myself, but that's not working out so far. So I'm leaning towards SOE Live instead of a new computer. That's kind of my thing right now. And as far as in-game goes, I'm hoping to eventually, if we have enough races left, build something that actually maybe gets on the workshop show, or even better yet, makes it into one of the Foundation Islands. Beyond that, you may find me running around with Military Gamers. Go ahead, check them out. They're multi-platform, multi-game. If you play it, we're probably in it. Check at www.militarygamers.com. And if you're in Landmark, hit me up with a tell, and I can tell you more about it.
Cool. And your in-game name is the same as Zek Saidu? It's Zek Saidu the same way?
Yes, I am Zek Saidu in every SOE game. I have a character in every game. I don't necessarily play every game a lot, but if you see that name, it's me.
Cool. What about you, Master Diggs?
Let's see. I am always in the forums. If I'm playing my main character in Landmark, then you'll probably see some tweets. And I've been playing more now that we have PvE in. I'm hoping we get a blueprint update sometime soon, and I hope that February through April we should be seeing. They're actually supposed to be focusing on linking and triggering and game mastering tools and story bricks, and I'm looking forward to playing around with the story bricks tools. So that's up for me.
And legendary Neurotoxin.
So I've got the usual shows. We've got Dead Feature Rant for H1Z1 fans, Live Feature Rant on Wednesdays. That comes after the Landmark Live show. And if there's no Landmark Live show, we'll do the show anyway because it's still a lot of fun. Content and Creations every Sunday, 1 to 5 p.m. leads into the Evercast show, and of course Theory Forge, and various other things throughout the week with Who's Gaming Now, and probably going to be starting up streaming on My Dream here very, 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 very soon. So a little bit of this and that, and passing it over to you then, Noodle.
Well, as most of you know, I've got a lot of work stuff going on right now since I just started the new job. But as far as Landmark goes, right now just playing around with all the new stuff that they give us, building here and there, not doing anything super huge or large or whatever. I'm kind of waiting for one of the workshops to pique my interest. Don't know yet. But other than that, I'll be playing H1Z1. Probably playing that quite a bit over the next couple weeks. I'm one of those people that just really, really, really likes alpha and beta testing because I break everything anyways, so it helps.
Cool. Well, I look forward to maybe watching you. Maybe. Hopefully. And of course...
No Monday.
Oh. All right, cool. Yeah, well, let us know. Actually, make sure you post it up on Twitter, and I will retweet it. By the way, guys, everybody here on the show, they have their Twitter handle down below their name. So if you guys want to go, if you particularly like any of our opinions or the things that we say or the beautiful faces that we have, you can of course follow us on Twitter. I am. I would love to tell you guys what's going on with me, but I don't even know. So it's just one of those things. It's just one of those things where my life is. I'm very much in a transition stage, and but I'm very happy to be here for Theory Forge, and you guys can follow my channel on Twitch and me on Twitter for more information. But I did just get a new laptop. Which I opened up the laptop, thought there would just be a laptop inside, and it turns out it was a box of technical difficulties. So just kind of dealing with that. And as soon as this is done, I will be back to live streaming, and I will be streaming Landmark again. So that should be that's kind of why you heard me installing Landmark, and you heard Dave Georgeson's lovely intro. Anyway, so thanks everybody for coming by again today, and we had a great time talking with each other, and we had a great time interacting with you guys in the chat. So we will see you guys next Friday for Theory Forge, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Until then, my friends, stay smelly.
Yep, and we will see you on the Landmark Explorer channel. Bye-bye.